Hi again for another video on this channel. It's my second actually now. And thank you very much for the 2 people who subscribed me on my first video, even though I just said it's like a private project of mine to kind of chat with myself. I called it this for now. And also thank you very much for the comments. And today I wanted to talk about something which is also inspired by something I saw earlier today on Instagram again. But it got me thinking. And the question sounds pretty simple on the surface, but it's quite complex. And it's, who am I? Or who are you? Who are we? Not in a species kind of way, but on an individual level. Who are we? And to further clarify what I mean when I ask this question is to not simply, I'm not to simply answer it by saying, well, I'm a human, I just exist. And I do mean it on an individual basis. And where I'm trying to get at is how our experiences, our education, us being raised by our parents in different ways, all leads us to different paths that we did not really, or which I would argue we were not really able to alter that much, right? If you have a different opinion, please let me know at any moment, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say my opinion is the only right one. I also clarified this a lot in the first video. I just want to make sure if anyone's new watching. Sorry. So, I want to give an example. So to further understand what I'm really asking, right? And for example, our education. Because earlier I saw a video about a guy that said he wasn't sure if his education path that he pursued was the thing he really wanted to do in life, or if it were just the expectations of his parents, friends, family, etc., that led him to making that choice of education. And this got me thinking beyond this reel, right? Just how much of us is not self-determined, but determined by the influences of our experience, of our family, friends, etc. I think you're getting, you understand where I'm getting at, right? And that also leads to another big question, which kind of goes hand in hand, and it's if there is a free will. It's not directly the same question, but it does go hand in hand in some kind of way. And for the free will question, my personal opinion is that I'm not entirely sure, but I would argue that we do have free will, at least to some extent. Whoa, sorry, it's actually quite hot in here. But I mean, I don't really have I'm not really sure of my opinion in that regard. It's just, I do think we have free will to an extent. But I do believe that experience, and especially the way our parents raises us, the way our parents raised us, the term influences many things and choices we do in the future. I mean, there are some, like I'm not an expert on this field, right? But I did, for example, saw research on some experiments with babies where one child would get like a lot of affection and a lot of reactions Like for example, babies cry a lot. Like really small children, babies, like they cry a lot, and when they get reactions, that is a good thing because it kind of signals them. I'm not entirely sure, but it for sure it was a good thing, and it was said like the child that like cried and cried and got no reactions by anyone. Like it was an experiment, right, to just test the behavioral studies, I believe. Then the child would, after a while, just go silent and like kind of emotionless, and it was further shown that children that were like neglected and didn't get any reactions when they had like an emotional display, that these children were more likely to be like reserved and to not really show emotions or talk about them a lot. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if our choices that we made along the way, right? Like, is this really what I truly want? Is this what I truly feel like fulfills me at the moment or in life or in the future? Whatever the motivation may be, right? But the point is that I believe we cannot be sure if our choices that we made on our own are really our choices, or if it's like something in the past that like made us do this choice right now. And I feel like the more you think about the simple question, who am I? And think about the things I just said and argued a bit, right? I think it's a quite deep question in itself. I mean, humanity, or like ever since humans existed, ever since humans learned to speak, to write, to express themselves, they always wanted to they always want to live a fulfilling life, right? A life of meaning, which we talked about in the first video I made on this channel. But yeah, and that also begs the question: if my choices are not really my choices, but the choices of people around me, of people in my past, especially, of other factors, societal norms, idols, etc., people we look up to and like get influenced by them. If this influence these things have is so big that you could argue your own choices are not really your own choices, then this would also beg the question if our meaning of fulfillment of our life is really the fulfillment we want in our life or for our life. And I'm honestly thinking about this question while I speak about this, right? Because I don't really have an opinion on it yet. Or maybe I will not have a concrete opinion on it at all. But I do think the influence is quite big that other people have on your own decision making. I mean, see from behavioral studies, in especially like parenting and how our parents raised us, right? Like there's so many factors that go into the equation of you making certain decisions that I think it's quite fascinating to think about what really lies behind a simple decision, or like also certain characteristics, right? Like for example, I also like I'm a firm believer that also our genes do not play a role in the way we act, like our correct characteristics. I believe, like, if a person, and this is also what I mean with, like, we're not that unique, right? Like, I believe in my personal view, like, maybe it's factually wrong, but I do not think there have been any studies that show that I know of, at least, of the, like, if the genes influence your characteristics to a certain extent. Like, I'm a firm believer that if we were to swap places, and you, the viewer, was in exactly my position, you would have the exact same parenting style, you would have the exact same friend groups, the exact same influences, that you would be characteristically the exact same person, if that makes sense. And to me, that is quite, I don't know, it's quite scary, but also, even if I have this opinion, it's not really something I can change, right? It's one of those things that you kind of try to fight a bit with your conscience, because that takes away the uniqueness one has as an individual, right? But it also, like, now that I think about it, it doesn't take away the uniqueness at all, I believe, because you're the only person that has made exactly these experiences that you made in your life, right? Whether they be good, bad, or neutral, like, all the experience together. And this will never happen again. Like, your exact life will never be lived in a billion years, right? So it doesn't take away the uniqueness, now that I think about it. But just like as a mind fuck experiment, right? Where it will, like, you could think about if someone was in your exact position, like, raised exactly the same, that they would be the exact same person. Also, feel free to state your opinion if in the comments, or I don't know, like, if you have the different opinions, because I think it's quite interesting to see the way other people think. And of course, we're like, you're not gonna agree with me on everything, right? And I'm also not sitting here saying that it's the ultimate correct opinion, because they're opinions in the end, and they're meant to be different, right, from person to person. But yeah, and like, I've thought about a scenario, right? Because to get back to the beginning of the video, in the video I saw, the person talked about whether they are not sure if their education path was the correct one, right? Because they weren't sure if their choice of education was really their choice or their parents. And they didn't mean it in a way that their parents forced them to do, like, to take this educational path, right? But they rather, like, the person in the video rather like, stated that they thought about if their parenting style, or if their, like, influence in his childhood made him want to pursue this education. And it's kind of a really tough question to answer, right? I mean, there's not a real answer to it. It's just like how you view what makes you yourself, right? And from my own opinion, which I just stated, right, in addition to what I just stated earlier, I believe that to think about if your parents, for example, like, parents is just the best example, I believe. It can be other factors, right? That if your parents, for example, had some influences on you in your childhood that kind of later on led you to pursue art, for example. And then you take the then you start studying art at a university. To think like it's kind of irrelevant to ask whether that's truly your decision, and not irrelevant in a way where it like makes asking this question sound stupid. Not in this way. I mean it in a way where it's like you are, like, it's kind of a cliche sentence, right? You are what you are because of your experiences, right? And if you ask yourself, was this really my choice? Maybe I would have wanted to study something completely different. Well, your experiences led you up to this path. And to, for example, not want to get into art if it was fundamentally influenced in your childhood. Like, of course, some people only realize what they want to do in their 30s. But just talking about this hypothetical scenario, then, and even later, I don't want to make it sound like everyone got their life figured out, right? And yeah, but like if you're at the point where you're asking yourself, is this really my choice or my parents' choice? Or another person's choice? Whether or not, or you should ask yourself whether or not a decision was truly your decision. But to say that this decision was not your decision based off of your childhood experiences, and that it was fundamentally your parents' influences that made you go into art, for example, if I want to continue with this example, then you wanting to get into another subject based just off the experience, like is kind of like there was no other influence for you to take. There was no other interest that kept you into this, that like led you into this direction of art, right? Of another subject. And I'm also not trying to say, like, maybe my example isn't quite good now that I realize it, just because it doesn't include the fact that people, like, if I was a fully, for example, I'm a very like STEM kind of guy. Like, I've always been good with science, with math, and now I'm studying computer science. If I would suddenly want to get into music, even though I have absolutely nothing to do with music, I could still do it and love it, right? But that's not the point I'm trying to make, right? Because, yeah, like, just to continue with this example, because I'm not really sure where I was going with it, or like it didn't really make sense that much. But there's like always an argument to be made that your decision is based off of something in your past. Like, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, if you're this child and your parents forced you into math, and then you decide, no, I studied math for 2 years now, it's not my thing, I want to go into music. Then there's an argument to be made that this decision was based off of the rebellious nature, because you were always like forced in their footsteps. You feel me? Like, it's kind of an argument. Like, it's very hard to say something against this argument, but also very hard to speak in favor of this argument, I feel like. Because you could argue, yeah, you can say anything was based off of your experiences in the past, right? But you can always also say, yeah, now you're just reaching and trying to like make some conclusions, right? Make some connections with your experience, even though it was never based off that, right? Like maybe I don't know, maybe psychology has an answer for that I don't know, but it's really still a tough question. And I just want to keep you in mind, like, even though my opinion is like a mix, right? I said I don't really have a concrete opinion on this topic, but I just think that we are way more influenced by experiences, and especially childhood and parenting, than people think we are. And also with the argument earlier that if we switch places and you're in exact my conditions, you would be the exact same person. Also like makes me feel a bit weird, right? That's what I said earlier. But I also want to clarify, and I think that's a very important thing to say. If, like, whether or not you share my opinion on this, or not my opinion, I feel like opinion is a bit, I don't know, I don't like this word because it kind of always sounds like it's a debate or something, right? But it's just more of a thought. Like if you share my thought process, and can understand what I think about this or not, maybe you think we're very different. Like if you're in my shoes and with exactly my like prerequisites, I would say maybe you're a completely different person, and that would give us that unique spark, right? That many people believe we have, which I'm just like not sure of. I'm also not like 100% like set in stone on this topic, right? Then it, like, whether or not you share this thought of mine or not, does not take away the appreciation you should have for your life and yourself. Because having this mindset, or not mindset, but like this, I mean, I guess mindset sounds a bit like I want to sell a course or something, right? But having this mindset or not does not justify you not thinking you're special on an individual level. Because I've noticed many people who have views that go rather into the nihilist direction, or in the direction where the human is not in the center of our world, which you can totally agree with or disagree with. Then there's a certain part of that group that tends to absorb themselves with a whole lot of negativity, which I think is not justified. Because I feel like from a philosophical point of view, I like to think about these topics, right? About whether or not I'm truly myself and only myself. Who am I? What is the meaning of life? All these topics, like all these like often asked questions of philosophy and philosophy and literature, right? I think on a just, if you think about this mathematically, you could say you only have one life, even if you think there's absolutely no meaning in this life, and even if you think that you are not truly yourself, right? Then the conclusion of this of this thought you have, of this opinion you have, should not be, oh, I'm not truly myself and I will maybe never be, but the conclusion of that should not be, then my life makes no sense, right? Or, hey, then I should do absolutely nothing with my life. Then I should, like, I don't know, even spread more hate and stuff. Because I think that's just a wrong conclusion from this kind of view. Because for me, as a person that has these opinions, or like rather like tends to the nihilistic, absurdist, existentialistic, sorry for the pronunciation, the existentialist, yes, tough word, and these kind of like tendencies, I just think the conclusion should be, yeah, you only have this, you have this life, which has no meaning. Like, I think it has no meaning. Then heck yeah, bro. I have no boundaries. I have no like philosophical boundaries. I have I have like the whole world is at my feet, right? Like, of course, there's some societal stuff and financial stuff, of course, but this is on a different layer of life. But in the pure essence of life, the fact that life could have no meaning, or that maybe you are the accumulation of your experiences and influences, and maybe there's truly no individual part, like, that does not mean that your life should go to waste. Now, what your definition of letting your life go to waste, or to live a successful life, to live a fulfilling life, to live a happy life, is, you need to find out for yourself. And that's a very, 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 very hard question. A very hard task you have in your life. And if your conclusion is still that life has no meaning, and there is no task to be fulfilled, there is no things to strive for, like a quest in a game, you could say it, to make a little analogy, then that's totally fine. But it should not be meant in a negative way. It should be meant in a fulfilling way. There is no meaning, so I do not keep myself in this cage of boundaries I set for myself, because I can do whatever I want and keep looking forward until the day we die. And that's the thing everyone has to do someday, right? But that's another topic. But yeah. So, just as a little conclusion, because I also want to apologize that I keep going off track, or like starting new side tracks, new side stories, you could say. I'm opening a whole lot of new arguments whilst I speak, because this is really a chat with yourself. I just named it for now. I don't know if I'm continue doing these videos, or I'm just doing what I feel like right now. But yeah, I'm trying to keep it authentic and not edit too much, for example. Like, that's why I also don't cut out passages that I would normally, if I would edit a video, right? Just for entertainment purposes, I could edit parts out that sound like they're repeating itself, or if they're like kind of going off topic, because I just want to do this for myself and for people who, yeah, just feel like listening to this random dude they don't know on the internet. talking about some philosophical, some other questions in the future, maybe some things. Like, I'm still not sure where I'm going with these videos, right? But yeah. Thanks for watching, and thank you for the 2 subscribers who made in the first video, and for the beautiful comments you left and sharing your thoughts and all. And also thanks for the people who just clicked on this video and were interested what this random guy on their For You page was rambling about. But yeah. And have a good rest of your day. Have a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on where you are right now. And I'll see you soon.